Hi, welcome back to this episode of your College Admissions Coach. I'm Chris Hitchens from College Admissions Solutions, a member of the Bethel Park Chamber of Commerce. Later on this episode, we're going to be joined by Heather Campbell from Club Z Tutoring. First, we're going to mix it up a little bit with some viewer mail, and we're going to talk about early decision. Then we're going to talk about FAFSA later on, and maybe some more viewer mail if we have time. But I'm getting into this viewer mail question because it fits right in with what we want to talk about, especially this time of year, and that is students who are contemplating early decision. My daughter's struggling whether to apply early decision to her first choice, highly selective college. She's not really concerned with the status, but she loves the school. On paper, she's definitely qualified to get in regular decision. The overall admittance rate is 23%, which is reasonably high for a selective school. But of course, we know that applying early decision will give her an edge, especially in cases like this one where money is not an issue. We're going to talk about money. She also loves one or two other colleges, so that makes the decision that much more challenging. So how do we make this decision? Let's talk about early decision and what it is. And there's some myths we're going to talk about and some pitfalls to avoid and the truth about early decision and what some people believe, but it's not actually true. Early decision, some colleges offer, and this early decision you'd make around this type of year, early November. It is binding. So if I'm making an early decision to a college, I am agreeing to only apply to that college. I agree to only apply and accept their offer of admittance to that college. That means if I do apply to other schools or had beforehand, I must, bring those back in. So I am not allowed to consider any other school. So this is binding. The high schools are on board with this situation. And so it's as binding as it can be. So what is the advantages and disadvantages of early decision? Early decision, a lot of colleges, in fact, most colleges, not all colleges, will publish their acceptance rates and regular decision acceptance rates and the early decision acceptance rates. A lot of times there's a large difference, and it looks like taking an early decision path is one way to get into that highly selective school that you may not otherwise get into. And so this is why it seems like a favorable way to go. But there's some myths about early decision and then some pitfalls about early decision. I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from going early decision, but there's things we should know. And a lot of times this information is not readily supplied to the students and readily supplied to the families. So it looks like my early decision percentages of acceptance are so much higher. This may be a myth. So let's say this families looking at a college, their regular acceptance rate is 23%. Let's say that their early admissions acceptance rate is 60%. That's a big jump. So I have a much better chance if I go in early decision. Well, statistics never tell the whole story. Here's the reason why. If the college has athletic programs, as most colleges do, athletes 90% of the time are admitted through early decision. And so that 60%, that is taken into account these athletes, which is not the competition this girl is up against when it comes to being accepted. So that itself raises that percentage quite a bit. Here's another one. And people don't take this into consideration because it is not highly publicized or that well known, and that is legacy students. If the child is a legacy, which means their parents, possibly their grandparents, but most often their parents or maybe an older sibling had gone to the school before and graduated, they're considered a legacy. They have a leg up on other students applying. So when legacies apply early decision, they have a very high acceptance rate. This now elevates the early decision acceptance rate that's published. And this is not somebody that the student is competing against. And so that 60% isn't actually 60% of the general public who's applying early decisions. Between the athletes and legacies, they are truly elevating that number. Who else? Now, who is this girl competing against for acceptance into this college? And that is other high-achieving students. So they many times will apply early decision. High-achieving students will apply early decision. So this is really who she's competing with. But I have a strong feeling that this giant jump in acceptance rate for early decision applicants isn't quite as big as it seems. Honestly, I think it's much lower than that 60%. I'm not sure it's much higher than that 23% as regular decision. So she might be, we need to investigate more, but she may be better off waiting, apply early decision. Sounds like she's a great candidate to get in because early decision has some pitfalls. Okay, what are some pitfalls about early decision? One pitfall with early decision is your family needs to be sure that they can pay full tuition with no aid. Because you're going to get your acceptance letter back, and if you're accepted, you don't get your financial aid information back till months later. And you're accepted early decision, it's binding, and now you have this tuition bill, and you're hoping for financial aid. If the financial aid that you think is coming through the college falls through or isn't quite what you need, that is a huge, huge, huge issue. So I would not apply early decision unless I'm truly sure that I can afford full tuition without any aid. Now, there are financial aspects that colleges and the high schools will consider if the student truly can't afford, but it really plays against the student's self-confidence, knowing that they could have gotten into school, but their family just can't afford it. In fact, they were accepted. So unless your family expects to be able to afford going to that school, I would wait and apply early decision. Also, if you expect your senior grades to elevate and you think they're going to help you with admittance, I would hold off on early decision. So again, early decision takes a long, serious discussion, and we need to investigate what the student wants, and we need to investigate the different schools and what their criteria are and what they consider when they're publishing their percentages of acceptance for early decision. All right, that's it for this segment. Again, I'm Chris Hitchens, your college admissions coach, member of the Bethel Park Chamber of Commerce. Join us. We're coming back with our next segment with Heather Campbell from Club Z Tutoring.
Hi, Bethel Park. Uncle Al speaking. I'm asking you to come help us behind the scenes at BP TV. We're looking for some proud Bethel Park residents to help us make the shows that you want to watch. For more information, contact Station Director Dave Cable, and we will see you behind the cameras at BP TV.
Welcome back. I'm Chris Hitchens, your college admissions coach, member of the Bethel Park Chamber of Commerce. And in this segment, we're going to be joined by Heather Campbell. Welcome back, Heather.
Thank you, Chris. I'm happy to be back.
Awesome. And what would we like to talk about in this episode?
So I thought the preparation for college
Yes.
and the senior year, junior year especially, what kind of course loads, what kind of career paths.
Definitely.
Those types of things are always big things that I'm hearing from families with the older high school kids.
This is the time of year where juniors truly, I know it doesn't seem like it, juniors truly should be zoning in on the college application process and start
Right.
investigating. Do not wait. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you are absolutely right. I encourage even sophomores to start thinking about that,
Yep.
so it's not feeling like the last minute. So sometimes the overwhelming pressure of college-bound students to pursue AP courses, advanced placement, honors classes, the international baccalaureate, or even dual enrollment with college classes
Right.
seems to be the best way to prepare for college. And it can leave parents and educators scratching our heads, wondering, is this really necessary? Is the stress and the workload really worth it? Or is it simply adding more pressure to the stress of the young people in our lives? So there's a couple of different things that you can look at to see if it's really worthwhile. There have been studies done recently. The Chronicle of Higher Education says that students are woefully unprepared for the rigors of college, even when they're taking
That's
these
interesting.
AP, IB, honors classes, just because college is different. They're going to be on their own. They don't
Right.
have that family network
Yes.
that's going to be supporting them. The transition from high school to college for many is complicated and overwhelming. Just the fact that they have to get up on their own.
The responsibility
Get
is
to classes.
enormous, and then we have
Absolutely.
the parents who try to do a little bit too much with their student, and then students just aren't self-reliant enough sometimes.
Right. So sometimes it's not necessarily those higher level classes, but more the independence
Exactly.
that they need to kind of work on those last few years of high school.
Yeah, and college is college a lot of times is sink or swim. Only half the kids that go in actually come out with a degree. So it's a interesting proposition.
Right. And actually, kind of on the statistics side of things, nearly 30% of students have been found to change their major within the first 3 years of college.
I agree with that. Yes.
So how do we know what career that we want to do at the age of 18 and 17, So honestly, rather than loading the coursework, it's sometimes finding those trade school or opportunities for the kids to go half day to an internship or a work study or something of that nature. Studies have found that that is more effective for their choices in college careers and helps them get through the college system faster because they know what direction they want to take and they've had the experience.
I definitely agree that overloading with AP courses and honors courses is not the way to go. So colleges look for these things, but they want to see a student take courses they are able to successfully handle. And
Right.
overloading the student is not going to have a positive effect on the college application process. And career-wise, I think that's a great idea. Look for a general area that students have an interest in. And then they can sort of focus in on their major and then sort out careers in college, but look for this general area. So if they love math, they can look at engineering or accounting or finance.
Absolutely. And it's all about the individual. So maybe your student really enjoys AP courses and
course.
thrives
Yes.
in that setting.
Yep.
It's not to say that AP courses should be done away with or anything like that, but it's finding the strengths of the student and it's not across the board.
Right.
So what can parents do now? That's the big question I get on a regular basis.
I think parents there's a lot of confusion about what their role should be.
Absolutely. And like I said, the students are individuals. So preparing students for college should be a broad approach, selecting appropriate, challenging coursework, visiting college campuses to get a real feel
that's
for
huge.
what
Yep.
the campus life is like.
And it's really nice to visit the colleges because then you have some things to compare. So
Exactly.
you may go to school and say, I really like this school. Then you go to another school, well, I like this part of this school and this part of this school. Let's go see some more schools. And you get that baseline. Then you can sort of expand your investigation and really
Yes.
have things to compare. Not just visit, and if you like it or not, but visit and compare it to other schools that you also may
Right.
love more.
Absolutely. And I've found that kids who are very set on a certain school will just narrow in on that school.
Yes.
I'm sure you see
Extremely
that
common,
too.
Yes. To their detriment too many times, I'm afraid.
Right. But even if they know what school they want to go to,
Mm-hmm.
it's always nice to be able to compare to other schools. And you might find
I agree.
something that you never thought to ask.
There's always something else. You're going to have to look and buy that car. Keep looking. You're going to find another car that you love so much better and so much less expensive and less trouble to maintain. So keep
Absolutely.
looking, keeping those searches wide.
Yes.
You will find gems out there you have no idea exist,
Right.
truly, and ones that fit the student perfectly.
Absolutely. And so what I've found just through the families that we've worked with and things of that nature is using somebody like you is invaluable.
I could help.
And then also receiving the tutoring so that you can
Right.
maintain those grades.
Of course.
Because if you do take an AP or honors level course and you don't do well, that's not going to look good.
That drives me crazy. I would never suggest, unless a student is going to get an A in an honors course, I don't believe they should take the course.
Yeah.
And it almost falls in with AP courses. I mean, maybe beat an AP course, depending on the course, but truly anything under that, I highly recommend, based on the student, don't take the class. It's not your strength. It doesn't seem to be your interest. Let's find things you really love and can excel at.
Absolutely. And so that's what I found, kids who have made these decisions and are stuck with the decisions that they've made, we can come in alongside them a lot of times
I agree.
and help them maximize the
Yes.
grade so that it doesn't hurt their GPA and hurt their scores.
So this
as
is
they're
something
going
Club
forward.
Z Tutoring does. They take these
Absolutely.
kids, help identify that they're struggling a little bit in an area, and they can step
And
in.
it's usually just the fact that the course load is more and it moves faster. It's not new information. It's not different from the academic classes.
Right.
It's the speed of the course and how much assistance they're going to be given.
Right, and I think a lot of this also falls on the other students in the class. They don't realize this is a class full of achievers. I mean, so the class is going to go fast. There's a lot of competition in these types of classes. So I really, want to stress to parents and students: do not feel pressured to take these extra honors and AP courses. The benefit you're going to get from it doesn't compare to the stress and the detriment that you could experience.
And as you said, focus on your strengths.
Right.
So
Play to
a
your strengths.
pitfall I've seen for students is they take 5 AP courses and then they're completely overworked and overwhelmed. So, really play to your strengths and choose the classes that make the most sense for you.
I agree with that 100%. Yep. We need more people like you. Awesome.
Well, I really appreciate you having me back. And
Oh.
any help I can give your students and parents that are looking,
Yes.
I love to be able to support them.
Heather Campbell, Club Z Tutoring. Her insight is invaluable, truly. All right, that ends this segment with Heather Campbell from Club Z Tutoring. Come on back. We're going to talk a little bit about early decision, maybe get into some viewer mailbag.
to another adventure with Savings Man.
Look, honey, the neighbors just bought a big screen TV.
Hey, I just got a bonus at work. Maybe we should get one too.
Hold on there.
Savings Man.
Using your bonus to secure your future by paying down debt or saving is a better way to go.
Well, I declare you're right, Savings Man.
Stay ahead by choosing to save. And don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses.
But their name is Johnson.
For more tips and tools, visit choosetosave.org today.
Right now. Hi, welcome back to your College Admissions Coach. I'm Chris Hitchens from College Admissions Solutions, member of the Bethel Park Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank Heather Campbell from Club Z Tutoring for being here in that last segment. And now we're going to talk about the FAFSA form. The FAFSA form opened October 1st, and like every year, the FAFSA website crashes on October 1st, and is usually down for at least a few days, maybe even a little bit more. So I advise families, wait a little bit. You can wait 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can wait a week before you need to go into the FAFSA. I know it's first come, first serve, but you can wait a little bit of time because there's no point, being frustrated, and a week's not going to make a difference. I did have one family tell me the website crashed, the FAFSA website crashed. They wouldn't accept their information from their last tax return, so they decided to mail in their FAFSA form, which I would highly recommend families do not mail in your FAFSA form. Wait for the website to get back up and running. All right, so anyway, you have a student who is a senior, and they're expecting to go to college next fall. How's the FAFSA work, and what is the FAFSA? The FAFSA is going to give the colleges guidelines as to how much financial aid the family is eligible for. How do they do this? Well, they look at your income and they look at your assets. They don't look at your home equity. There are a number of different types of investments they also do not consider, which is both things are a benefit to the families. So they look at it mostly income and assets. Now, the FAFSA's changed a great deal in the past 5, 6, 7 years. One thing now, the FAFSA has the IRS tax return retrieval tool. And so as you go into the FAFSA, the family can enter their information, the parent needs to enter their information, the student needs to enter their information, but the FAFSA will go in and retrieve the family's tax return and input the data from the tax return, which can be a humongous time saver for the family. It makes it so much easier than it used to be. Right now, as we're taping, that tool is not working as well as it should be. The reason is the IRS changed the latest 1040. Well, the latest 1040 that we should be using is from 2018. So they changed the 1040 form. FAFSA is not able to retrieve it as smoothly and seamlessly as they should be, so there are some hiccups. So be patient with the FAFSA. But so your student is a senior now, going to be a college freshman next year, we hope. Which year should we use? So we should be using 2018 tax returns. We don't have to wait for 2019. In fact, we don't want to wait for 2019. We want to do the FAFSA in this month of October, if at all possible. So it's called prior. So we're using the year that the student will be a freshman, in this case 2020, 2 years prior, which is 2018. So this tax return has already been filed. It's all set to go. All right, so pitfalls with the FAFSA. Some things to consider. Use the right year tax return. Other things. When you fill out the FAFSA, do not leave any blank spaces. I know there may be a number of categories, financial categories, where the amount is zero or not applicable. Put something in that space. It causes the FAFSA to have conniptions, and so you want to fill up every space on the FAFSA. Do not leave anything blank. Use zeros. If you don't enter your information correctly in the FAFSA, many times your FAFSA form will get flagged. It means you're flagged for verification, which means you need to go through a process and they need to vet your assets and your income. And it really slows the process down. And so you want to make sure everything is clean and smooth and correct the first time to avoid any hiccups. Your name's in the FAFSA. Please use your full name as it appears on your Social Security card. Now, for adults, that sort of makes sense. We're used to signing checks, filling out forms, going through financial processes. Students are a different story. So, students have to be schooled, use their full name as it appears on their Social Security card. Otherwise, you're going to cause issues with your FAFSA. You're going to slow the process down. It's going to be rejected or flagged. All right, this is a big one. Who should fill out the FAFSA? Well, 25% of families with students entering college do not fill out the FAFSA. They figure we make too much money. Our income's too high. We have too many assets. We're not going to get any financial aid anyway. So we're not going to bother filling out the FAFSA. They have their own reasons, but I will tell you, most families are eligible for some type of aid. And sometimes the aid is in the form of loans. It could be something for an outside scholarship. And these things the student will not be eligible for unless there is a FAFSA filled out. So I emphasize, all families should fill out the FAFSA. So there are things we don't even know about that can be the FAFSA that rely on the completed FAFSA form. We think we have too much money. That may not be the case. Also, and this is a situation that happened recently with a family I was talking to, is that they had a gigantic financial episode where they are now without a large part of their income. And so the parents were making a great deal of money. They had, they had assets. So there was a situation. Now the family's income dropped by 70%, a large amount. The student may not even be able to go to college. Now, if they had filled out the FAFSA in the first place, the colleges then can be contacted and say, we've had this situation occur. We want to make some corrections, adjustments on the FAFSA, and the colleges are willing to work with you. But they would need that baseline to make that happen. So I implore families to don't ignore the FAFSA. All right. That's going to take us through this episode, Early Decision, Heather Campbell, how do we prepare students for college, and our FAFSA form. So thanks for joining us. My name is Chris Hitchens, College Admission Solutions, and we'll see you in the next episode.